For centuries, the Zerath Dominion had ruled the stars. Their ships burned through galaxies like wildfire, leaving behind silence and submission. Every planet they touched either bent the knee or turned to ash. They called themselves the Masters of the Void. No species had ever dared to stand against them. Until now. Captain Rin Vozar of the Zerath flagship Oblivion's Fang stood at the bridge, watching another conquered world disappear behind the dust of explosions. It was a small blue planet, another one among thousands. To him, it meant nothing. To the people below, it was everything. But mercy was not in his nature. Another system secured, reported his second officer, a tall figure with gray scales. No resistance left, Captain. Rin gave a slow nod. Good, we move on. Prepare the next target. He turned to the star map glowing red with the dots of conquered planets. Only one section of the galaxy remained untouched. A quiet spiral arm that looked ordinary, almost peaceful. His eyes narrowed as he pointed toward it. What's this region? He asked. The officer hesitated. Unregistered. Primitive system. Locals call it Sol. Primitive. Rin repeated, a cold smile forming on his face. Then it will fall faster than the rest. The bridge crew laughed. They had destroyed empires that spanned thousands of years. A single unknown system couldn't possibly matter. Yet deep inside that small, forgotten region of space, something waited. Something that didn't know how to bow. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Keller stared at the massive holographic screen in the Human Defense Command Center. The first images of the Zerath fleet had just arrived. Dozens of alien ships, each larger than a city, moved through space like dark titans. They wiped out Mars base in 5 minutes, said one officer in disbelief. We didn't even have time to fire. Sarah clenched her jaw. Humanity had prepared for war before. Wars between nations, wars for resources. But this was different. This was survival itself. Activate the Vanguard protocol, she said firmly. Prepare the HSS Dauntless for launch. The room went silent. Everyone knew the name. The Dauntless was humanity's most advanced warship, a project so secret that only a few had seen it. It was a ship built not to conquer but to end wars. Yes, Admiral, replied her command officer. The Dauntless will be ready within the hour. Sarah turned toward the window, watching the faint glow of the shipyards in orbit. She whispered softly, They think we're weak. Let's remind them who humans are. Meanwhile, the Oblivion's Fang entered the Sol system. Rin watched as his sensors scanned each planet one by one. Gas giants, barren rocks, and finally a small blue sphere. Life signs detected, his officer said. Humanoid species. Low technology level compared to ours. Perfect, Rin said with a smirk. Send them a message. Tell them to surrender and maybe we'll let a few live. Moments later, a communication signal crackled across the void. On Earth, Sarah's team received the transmission. The alien voice echoed through the command center. Deep, mocking, confident. This is Captain Rin of the Zerath Dominion. You will kneel before us. Resist and your world will burn. Sarah pressed a button and responded calmly. This is Admiral Keller of the United Earth Command. You've made a mistake. There was silence for a moment, then laughter from the alien bridge. A mistake? Rin repeated. You dare speak to me that way, human? Sarah's tone didn't change. You're not the first tyrant to underestimate humanity. And you won't be the last. Rin's smile faded. Then your world dies first. In the dark void between planets, fleets moved. The Zerath ships glowed red with weapon energy, preparing to strike. Their cannons could melt continents. Their shields could absorb suns. Against them stood a single ship, the HSS Dauntless, shining like a blade of light. The human crew aboard the Dauntless worked in silence. Every system hummed to life. Plasma reactors, rail cannons, and experimental warp drives. Captain Ethan Ward, the ship's commander, stood on the bridge, his eyes calm but focused. Captain, said his first officer, we're outnumbered 100 to 1. Ethan smiled slightly. Good. That means less confusion when we win. As the Dauntless powered up, the stars around it seemed to bend. It was the result of new human technology, a gravitational distortion weapon never tested in real combat. Across the void, Rin's fleet began its advance. Fire on my mark, he ordered. Show them the strength of the Dominion. 1,000 beams of light tore through space toward Earth, but before they reached their target, a single pulse of blue energy erupted from the Dauntless. The entire alien fleet froze mid-attack, sensors flickering, engines stuttering. What? "What is that?" shouted one of Rin's officers. Rin stared at the readings. "Impossible." That ship, before he could finish, the Dauntless moved. Faster than anything they had ever seen, it appeared behind one of the alien cruisers and unleashed a blast that split it in half. The explosion lit up the blackness like a newborn sun. Ethan's voice echoed over the comms. "For every world you burned, this is our answer." The first battle of the Sol system had begun. And for the first time in their history, the Zereth Dominion felt something they had never known before: fear. The explosion of the first Zerath cruiser spread across the darkness like a sunrise in space. On board the Oblivion's Fang, the bridge shook as alarms blared. Rin gripped the railing, his cold eyes staring at the wreckage of his ship. That was one of ours," said his second officer in shock. "Destroyed in a single shot." Rin's jaw tightened. "By a single human ship," he growled. "Find it, lock onto it. I want that thing crushed." The scanners struggled to follow the Dauntless. Every few seconds it vanished from sensors, reappearing in a new position as if it were playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek. The alien fleet opened fire blindly, beams of red light cutting through the void, but the human ship danced through them with unnatural precision. On board, the Dauntless, Captain Ethan Ward stood calm amid the chaos. The bridge flickered with tactical displays showing dozens of enemy ships surrounding them. "Status report," Ethan said, his voice even. "Shields at 92%, replied his officer. "Commander Hale. Enemy weapons locked, but our stealth drive is holding. They can't pin us down." Ethan nodded. "Good, let's keep it that way. Prepare railguns for full charge. Target the largest vessel." Hale glanced at him. "The one in the center? That's their flagship." "Exactly," Ethan said quietly. "Cut off the head and the rest will break." Down on Earth, Admiral Sarah Keller watched the battle feed in silence. The Dauntless moved like nothing ever built before, fast, sharp, almost alive. But the alien fleet was massive, and for every ship that fell, 10 more took its place. "Admiral," said an officer, "the Zereth fleet is adapting. They're recalibrating their weapons to track the Dauntless." Sarah frowned. "They learn fast. But so do we. Send a signal to the Dauntless. Tell them we've activated planetary defense satellites. They'll have backup." Outside the atmosphere, hundreds of small defense stations came online. Their weapons glowed with blue light, forming a wall of energy around Earth. The next wave of alien fire hit the barrier and scattered harmlessly. On the alien bridge, Rin slammed his fist into the control panel. "What is this?" he shouted. "How are they resisting our main cannons?" His officers hesitated. "The human world. It's protected. We've never seen a defense system like this." Rin turned slowly toward the star map. "Then destroy the ship first. Break their spirit. When their warship falls, their planet will follow." The Oblivion's Fang shifted its formation. The other ships moved closer, creating a deadly ring around the Dauntless. Massive energy cannons began to glow, their power readings off the scale. On board the Dauntless, the crew watched as the surrounding ships aligned. The warning lights on every console turned red. "Captain," Hale said urgently, "they're preparing a full strike. If they fire together—" "I know," Ethan interrupted. "That's why we're not going to be here when they do." He turned to his pilot. "Initiate slip strike maneuver now." The pilot's hands flew across the controls. The Dauntless engines flared blue and the stars outside stretched into lines. For a brief second, the ship vanished entirely, leaving behind only a ripple in the void. The Zereth fleet unleashed their combined blast, a storm of energy that lit up half the solar system. But when the light faded, there was nothing left in the target zone, just empty space. "Did we get them?" one alien officer asked. Rin stared at the screen. "No," he said darkly. "They're behind us." Before the aliens could react, the Dauntless reappeared directly above the flagship. Its cannons glowed white-hot as it fired downward. The energy beam sliced through the Oblivion's Fang's upper decks, tearing metal apart like paper. The alien bridge erupted in chaos. Sparks rained from the ceiling, consoles exploded, and crew members shouted in panic. Rin's claws dug into the floor as he shouted, "Return fire! All weapons now!" But it was too late. The Dauntless fired again, and the Zereth flagship broke apart, spinning slowly as flames consumed it. Ethan watched the destruction on the screen. "That's for Mars base," he said quietly. Down on Earth, cheers erupted in the command center. The alien flagship was gone. The impossible had happened, but Sarah didn't smile. Her eyes stayed on the tactical feed. "Admiral?" asked her officer. "The fleet is retreating." "We've won." Sarah shook her head slowly. "No, look closer. That's not a retreat. They're regrouping." On the screens, the remaining Zerath ships were forming a new shape. Tighter, more focused. They weren't running. They were adapting. Back in space, Rin's second officer climbed from the wreckage. His scales burned, but his eyes filled with fury. "Captain, our ship is lost. What are your orders?" Rin turned toward the hologram of the remaining fleet. His voice was cold as ice. "We were careless. Now we fight as hunters, not conquerors. Send a message to the Dominion. Tell them the humans are not to be underestimated. Reinforcements are coming." He looked out the window at the distant blue planet, a tiny spark of defiance in a dark universe. "They think they've won a battle," he whispered, "but they've just started a war." The wreck of the Zerath flagship drifted silently through the darkness. Pieces of twisted metal floated like ghosts around it, glowing faintly in the light of distant stars. For the first time in centuries, the great conquerors of the galaxy had suffered defeat, and it had come from a species they once considered too primitive to matter. Far from Earth, deep within the Zerath Dominion's core systems, the news spread quickly. The High Council gathered inside the Grand Citadel of Vorn, a massive structure made of black crystal and silver light. The air trembled with anger and disbelief. "Our fleet destroyed?" thundered High Chancellor Varkon. His voice echoed across the chamber. "By a single human warship?" The council murmured in outrage. None of them could believe it. The Zerath had crushed entire civilizations with a single command. Losing to a new species was not only unthinkable, it was a stain on their pride. A young officer stepped forward and activated a hologram showing the Dauntless. "This is the vessel responsible. Human designation HSS Dauntless. Unknown energy weapons. Shield technology beyond our understanding." The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. "Find them. Burn their world to ashes. Send the Vanguard Armada. Let every human know the price of defiance." Back on Earth, Admiral Sarah Keller stood in the command room, surrounded by tired but determined officers. The battle was over, but no one was celebrating anymore. Everyone knew the aliens would return, and next time they wouldn't come alone. "How long until they reach us again?" Sarah asked quietly. The answer came from Dr. Elias Trent, the chief scientist who designed the Dauntless's weapon systems. "Based on the energy signatures we tracked, they could send a fleet here in a few weeks. Maybe less if they use their warp gates." Sarah exhaled slowly. "Then we have weeks to prepare for the biggest war in human history." She turned to the screen showing the Dauntless, now docked above Earth for repairs. The ship's armor was scorched, and several weapon ports were damaged. Even with its victory, the battle had pushed it to the limit. Ethan Ward appeared on the screen from the Dauntless's bridge. "Admiral, we've started recharging the core. We'll be combat ready again soon." Sarah nodded. "You did more than anyone could have imagined, Captain. But this was only round one." Ethan's face hardened. "Then let's make sure we win round two." Days passed in tense silence. Across Earth, every nation united under a single flag, the Human Defense Alliance. Factories worked day and night. Scientists developed new weapons using the Dauntless's recovered data. Even civilians volunteered to help build defenses. Humanity had never been so united nor so afraid. Meanwhile, on the far edge of the solar system, deep space sensors picked up movement. Something enormous was coming. The first images showed hundreds of red dots entering the system. Moments later, more followed. Dozens of fleets, each led by colossal carriers. The Zerath Armada had arrived. Inside the Dauntless, alarms echoed through the corridors. Captain Ethan Ward walked onto the bridge, his crew already at their stations. The lights dimmed to battle mode, casting the room in blue and white. "Report," Ethan ordered. "Multiple enemy signatures detected," Hale replied. "Too many to count. They're coming straight for Earth." Ethan looked at the display, a sea of red, growing larger with each passing second. "Open a channel to Earth Command," he said. A moment later, Admiral Keller appeared on screen. "They're here," she said. Ethan nodded. "Then it's time." In the void, the alien ship spread out like dark wings, blocking out the stars. The lead vessel, the Spear of Vorn, carried the insignia of the Chancellor himself. Inside, Rin Vosar, scarred and furious, stood beside his new commander, Warlord Kareth, the most feared leader in the Dominion. Kareth's massive form loomed over the control deck. His voice rumbled like thunder. "These humans fight with fire. I respect that. But fire can be smothered." Rin bowed his head slightly. "Their warship is powerful, my lord. We must proceed carefully." Kareth's eyes glowed with hatred. "Carefully? No, we strike until their skies burn. Let the galaxy watch as Earth falls." The fleet advanced, a tidal wave of light and steel. From the Dauntless, the crew watched in silence. The sheer number of ships filled their sensors to the limit. Commander Hale whispered, "There's too many of them, sir." Ethan's voice remained calm. "Then we fight smarter. We can't match them in numbers, but we can outthink them. Prepare to deploy decoy drones and arm the graviton pulse." The engines roared as the Dauntless moved forward, placing itself between Earth and the oncoming armada. Every human soldier, scientist, and civilian watched the live feed. One ship against hundreds, and again. On the alien flagship, Kareth leaned forward with a cruel smile. "One ship dares to face my army? How amusing." He raised his clawed hand. "Destroy it." Thousands of energy beams fired at once, lighting up the void with deadly brilliance. The Dauntless vanished. In the next instant, explosions erupted across the alien front line. Human decoys, holographic drones, had redirected the enemy fire into their own fleet. Ships collided and burned in confusion. Kareth's smile faded. "Impossible. They're using our power against us." Ethan's voice echoed through the human comms. "Let's show them how humans fight together." As the Dauntless emerged from stealth, Earth's orbital defenses opened fire. Massive laser platforms and rail cannons lit up the night sky. For the first time in millennia, the invincible Zerath felt the sting of resistance. But amid the chaos, Kareth only laughed. "So they bite back," he said darkly. "Good. Let's see how long they can survive." He turned to Rin. "Prepare the shadow bomb. If we cannot crush their ships, we will destroy their sun." Rin hesitated. "That weapon, it's forbidden. It could destabilize the entire system." Kareth's grin widened. "Exactly." Rin looked at the image of Earth, the blue planet shining like a jewel in the dark. A strange feeling stirred inside him, one he couldn't name. For the first time, he wondered if they had gone too far. The stars around the Sol system flickered as the Zerath armada tightened its grip. Thousands of alien ships surrounded the region, forming a blockade that stretched from Mars to the edge of the asteroid belt. Their weapons glowed faintly red, like an army of sleeping dragons waiting to strike again. On board the Spear of Vorn, Warlord Kareth stood before a massive black device locked in the center of the ship's cargo bay. It pulsed slowly, emitting waves of dark energy that bent the light around it. "The shadow bomb," said Rin quietly, standing beside him, "forged from collapsed stars. A single detonation could destroy the sun." Kareth's mouth curled into a cruel smile. "And when their sun dies, so will their hope." Rin didn't answer. He looked at the weapon again, a dark sphere that seemed to swallow light itself. Even for the ruthless Zerath, this was madness. Destroying an entire star would wipe out billions of lives, including their own forces in the system. But Kareth didn't care. To him, fear was the greatest weapon of all. Back on Earth, the Dauntless hovered in orbit, surrounded by defense platforms and escort ships. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage from the last battle. Sparks flew as engineers patched hull breaches and replaced damaged weapon ports. Captain Ethan Ward walked through the corridors, checking on his crew. The faces he passed were tired but determined. They all knew another attack was coming, and it would be far worse than before. "Status?" he asked as he entered the bridge. Commander Hale looked up from the console. "Shields at full power. Reactor stable." But long-range scans picked up something strange from the enemy flagship. A massive energy buildup. "It's nothing like we've seen before." Ethan frowned. "Can we identify it?" "Not yet," Hale said. "But whatever it is, it's big." Ethan turned toward the window, looking at the distant formation of alien ships. "Then we find out before it's too late." In the Human Defense Command Center, Admiral Sarah Keller met with Dr. Elias Trent, the scientist who helped build the Dauntless experimental tech. Trent's face was pale as he studied the data. "The readings match something we've only seen in theory," he said. "It's a gravitational singularity weapon, If they detonate it near our sun, the entire system could collapse. Sarah's eyes widened. They'd destroy themselves too. Trent nodded slowly. Yes, but if they believe it will end humanity forever, they might think it's worth it. Sarah leaned forward. Can we stop it? There's only one chance, Trent said. We'd have to intercept the weapon before it reaches the sun. But it's heavily shielded. Nothing short of the Dauntless could get close enough. Sarah exhaled. Then that's what we'll do. Contact Captain Ward. Minutes later, Ethan appeared on the command feed. Captain, Sarah said firmly, we've confirmed the enemy has a doomsday weapon, something called a shadow bomb. If it reaches the sun, Earth and every colony will die. Ethan's expression didn't change, but his crew could see the tension in his eyes. Then we stop it. Send us the coordinates. Ethan, Sarah added quietly, this mission may be one way. He gave a small nod. Understood. Humanity won't go down without a fight. The screen went dark. As the Dauntless prepared to launch, the crew moved quickly but silently. Everyone knew what was at stake. Commander Hale stood beside Ethan on the bridge. Sir, if this thing really can destroy the sun, what if we don't make it back? Ethan looked out at the stars. Then at least we'll make sure they never forget who we are. The engines flared blue as the Dauntless moved into open space. Its sleek hull shimmered under the sunlight, a lone blade heading into the heart of the enemy. On the Spear of Vorn, alarms suddenly blared. Warlord, the human warship is moving toward us. A Zereth officer shouted. Kareth smiled darkly. Let it come. I want them to see the weapon that will end their species. Rin's eyes narrowed as he watched the tactical screen. They're heading straight for the bomb's coordinates. They know, Kareth turned sharply, then destroy them before they get close. Dozens of alien ships broke formation and advanced toward the Dauntless, their weapons firing in perfect unison. The void erupted in a storm of light and plasma. Ethan gritted his teeth as the Dauntless shuddered under the impact. Shields holding? 80%, Hale shouted. They're surrounding us. Good, Ethan said calmly. Activate the graviton pulse. Let's make some room. A deep hum filled the ship. Then a blinding wave of blue energy burst outward, distorting space itself. The nearest alien ships were caught in the field, twisted, crushed, and torn apart by their own gravity wells. Path is open, Hale said. Then take us through, Ethan ordered, straight to the flagship. On the Spear of Vorn, the shadow bomb began to glow brighter, absorbing the surrounding energy. Rin watched the readings with dread. My lord, the weapon is unstable. If we detonate too close to this system, we could... Kareth cut him off. Do it. The galaxy will remember this as the day the humans burned. Rin hesitated. Something inside him rebelled. He looked at the image of the blue planet on the monitor, the one Kareth wanted to destroy, and whispered to himself, they fight for their world, not conquest. Maybe that's real strength. Kareth turned toward him. Did you say something, Captain? Rin straightened quickly. No, my lord, but his hands clenched behind his back. He knew what he had to do. As the shadow bomb's power reached its final stage, the Dauntless appeared on the horizon, coming straight for the flagship. Inside the Dauntless, Ethan's voice rang out, target the device. Full power, all weapons. The entire ship trembled as every cannon, missile bay, and railgun charged at once. Commander Hale shouted, we're in range. Ethan nodded. Fire. A beam of light erupted from the Dauntless, cutting across space like a sword. It struck the Zerath flagship dead center, right where the shadow bomb was held. A massive explosion shook the system. Kareth roared as the ship trembled. No, keep it stable! But Rin moved faster. He slammed his fist on the emergency console and triggered a containment field, redirecting the explosion away from the sun. Captain, what are you doing? Kareth shouted. Rin turned to face him, calm for the first time. Ending this madness. The light swallowed them both. The explosion was brighter than the sun itself. For a few seconds, every sensor in the solar system went blind. Even from Earth, people could see the flash in the sky, a second sunrise blazing in silence. Then the light faded and the darkness returned. Inside the Dauntless, alarm screamed. The ship spun violently, its hull cracking under the force of the blast. Fires broke out on several decks and gravity flickered in and out as systems failed. Reactor overload, shouted Commander Hale, gripping the console. We're losing power. Stabilize it. Captain Ethan Ward yelled over the noise. Reroute all systems to the core shields. The bridge trembled again, sparks flying from the ceiling. The massive screen that once showed the stars now displayed only static. Shields at 15%. Hale shouted. If the shockwave hits again, brace for impact. Ethan commanded. A final wave of force slammed into the ship, tossing the crew to the floor. Then silence. Smoke filled the air. The emergency lights turned red. The Dauntless floated adrift in the wreckage of the battlefield, scarred but still whole. Hale coughed, wiping soot from his face. Reactor stable, barely. We're alive, Captain. Ethan exhaled slowly. Get me visuals. What's left out there? The static cleared and the view outside appeared. A graveyard of twisted metal. Hundreds of Zerath ships were gone, burned to nothing. The Spear of Vorn, their flagship, was shattered in half. Its glowing core still pulsed faintly like the dying heart of a beast, but there was no sign of the shadow bomb. Back on Earth, the Human Defense Command erupted in noise as signals from the Dauntless came through again. They're alive, an officer shouted. Admiral Sarah Keller leaned forward. Put them on screen. The image flickered, showing Ethan's face pale and tired but alive. Admiral, he said weakly. The bomb, it didn't destroy the sun. But the detonation almost took us with it. We're holding position. Sarah nodded, her voice steady but filled with emotion. You did it, Captain. You saved Earth. Ethan gave a faint smile. Not yet, ma'am. There's still something out there. In the wreckage of the Spear of Vorn, faint movement stirred. The lights were gone and the ship was dying. But deep inside one of the ruined decks, Rin Vosar opened his eyes. The air was filled with smoke and silence. Every part of him ached, but he was alive. He remembered the last thing he had done, rerouting the blast to save the system. Kareth's face flashed in his mind, filled with rage and disbelief as the light consumed him. Rin pulled himself up, his body trembling. Systems. Respond, he rasped, but the consoles were dead. The ship was falling apart. He limped to the main viewport, looking out into space. All around him were the remains of the Dominion fleet. The Empire's pride now reduced to ashes. For the first time in his life, he felt something strange. Shame. And a hint of peace. He whispered, "So this is what defeat feels like." Then his eyes caught something in the distance. A faint blue light. The Dauntless. Rin stared at it, thinking of the humans who had fought so fiercely to defend their world. They could have run. They could have begged, but they had stood their ground, he murmured softly. Perhaps. We were wrong about them. On board the Dauntless, the crew worked to restore systems. The ship floated close to the ruined alien flagship. Captain, Hale said, we're picking up a weak life signal from the enemy vessel. Ethan turned to him. Survivors? 1, maybe 2, Hale replied. Signal's faint, but... Sir, it's coming from their command deck. Ethan hesitated. That could be a trap, Hale nodded. Could be, but if it's not, we might learn something. Maybe even stop another war. Ethan thought for a moment, then gave a slow nod. Prepare a shuttle. I'll go myself. Captain, that's an order, Ethan said firmly. If this war is going to end, it starts with understanding what we're fighting. The shuttle drifted across the wreckage, weaving through floating debris until it reached the broken remains of the Spear of Vorn. Inside, the air was thin and filled with dust. Ethan moved carefully through the corridors, his flashlight cutting through the smoke. He found Rin collapsed near the viewport, his armor scorched and cracked. The alien raised his head slowly. You, Rin said weakly. Human. Ethan aimed his weapon for a moment, then lowered it. You're the one who diverted the explosion. Rin gave a faint, tired smile. Your world would have burned. I stopped it. Ethan stepped closer, studying him. Why? Rin's eyes flickered with a strange sadness. Because I finally saw what we'd become. We conquer, we destroy, but we never build. You humans, you fight for home, not for power. He coughed, his voice fading. Perhaps you deserve this galaxy more than we do. Ethan knelt beside him. You don't have to die here. Rin shook his head. It's too late for me. But not for you. The Dominion will come again, stronger, smarter. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then we'll be ready. Rin gave one last look at the human captain, the enemy who had become, in his final moments, someone he respected. Then his body went still. Ethan bowed his head for a moment in silence. "Rest in peace, Captain." When he returned to the Dauntless, the crew greeted him with relief. Hale asked quietly, "Sir, was there anyone left?" Ethan looked out at the wreckage. Only a soldier who realized too late what he was fighting for. He turned toward the stars. "Let's head home." The Dauntless slowly turned back toward Earth, its engines lighting the darkness. Behind it, the ruins of the Zerath fleet drifted silently, a reminder of what pride and war could cost. But far across the galaxy, deep within the Dominion's heart, new ships were already being built. The war was not over. It was only changing shape. Months passed after the Great Battle. The Dauntless returned to Earth as a symbol of survival. The world celebrated, but the scars of war ran deep. Cities rebuilt, soldiers were honored, and humans believed the danger was over. Yet in the silence between stars, new eyes watched. Captain Ethan Ward sat alone in the observation deck. The stars looked peaceful, but his mind wasn't. Every night he saw the flash of the explosion, the broken alien ship, and Rin's final words. "They will come again." Commander Hale entered quietly. "Sir, the repairs are complete." "The Dauntless is ready for duty again," Ethan nodded. "And the Council?" "They want to expand," Hale said. "They believe now is the time for humans to explore beyond our borders, to show strength." Ethan sighed. "Strength isn't just about conquering. We proved that already." Meanwhile, in the Dominion's far reaches, the surviving Zerath fleet gathered under a new leader, High Lord Vekral, Kareth's brother. He stood before a massive hologram of the destroyed flagship, fury burning in his eyes. "They made us kneel," he growled. "My brother's empire fell to one human ship. This shame will not stand." His advisors shifted uneasily. "The humans are unpredictable, my lord. They fight with madness and unity." Vekral slammed his fist onto the table. "Then we will study them. Learn their tactics. When we strike again, there will be no mercy." Behind him, new ships gleamed, faster, stronger, born from defeat. The Dominion had learned. On Earth, scientists worked with captured alien technology. What they found changed everything. The Zerath reactors, their shield systems, even fragments of their weapon cores, all were far beyond human design. Dr. Lena Morris, head of the research team, stood before a crowd of officers. "We can replicate some of their systems," she said, "but not all. Their energy source is something different, something alive." "Alive?" Hale asked. She nodded. "It reacts to thought, emotion, even intent. It's not just technology, it's a kind of bond." Ethan frowned. "And if they can feel us using it..." Lena met his eyes. "Then they'll know exactly where we are." A week later, deep space sensors detected strange signals near the edge of human territory, faint distortions, like ripples in gravity. The same signature as the Zerath fleet. Ethan was called to the command center. The officers were tense. "Could be debris," one said. "Or scouts," another replied. Ethan looked at the screen, a faint pulse repeating every few minutes, like a heartbeat in the dark. "No," he said quietly. "That's not debris. They're watching us." Far away in the Dominion's shadowed capital, Vekral stood before a war council. A massive screen displayed human communication logs, messages stolen through deep space relays. Vekral smiled coldly. "They think they've won. They rebuild, they celebrate. But soon their skies will burn again." An aide asked, "And the weapon, my lord?" Vekral turned to the hologram of a colossal warship, larger than anything ever built. "It will be ready soon," he said. "A ship forged from the same energy that destroyed us. We will return their fire, with vengeance." Back on Earth, Ethan visited the memorial built for those lost in the war. Thousands of names were engraved on steel walls, glowing softly in the night. He placed his hand on the surface, whispering, "We can't afford another war." A soft voice came from behind. It was Lena. "You can't stop what's coming, Ethan, but maybe we can be ready this time." Ethan looked up at the stars again, determination replacing the fear in his eyes. "If they come," he said, "we won't just defend Earth. We'll take the fight to them." The wind carried his words into the night, a quiet promise of the battle yet to come. The stars were no longer quiet. Alarms echoed through the command centers across every human colony. Deep space sensors screamed warnings. Something massive was entering human territory. In orbit around Earth, the Dauntless floated like a silver blade, now rebuilt, stronger, and faster. Its armor shimmered with faint blue light, a fusion of human steel and captured Zerath technology. Captain Ethan Ward stood on the bridge, staring at the radar. Dozens of red signals appeared one after another, an entire invasion fleet. At the center of it was something far larger than anything they had seen before. Commander Hale's voice was steady, but his eyes showed fear. "It's them, Captain. The Dominion's back." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we face them, here and now." The crew moved quickly, their faces calm but determined. No one ran. They all knew what this meant. This was the fight that would decide everything, the fate of humanity. Far beyond, on the command deck of the new Dominion flagship, the Oblivion Spear, High Lord Veckrel stood with cold fury in his eyes. The ship itself was alive, humming with energy that pulsed through its walls like blood through veins. "Target the human world," Veckrel ordered. "Burn their skies." His second-in-command hesitated. "My lord, we could end this quickly. Why not destroy their warship first?" Veckrel glared at him. "I want them to watch as their home falls. Then I will crush their ship with my hands." The massive alien vessel charged its weapon, the same dark energy that once fueled the bomb. A black light gathered at its core, distorting the space around it. "Captain!" Hale shouted from the Dauntless bridge. "Energy surge detected. It's powering up." Ethan didn't hesitate. Moved to intercept. "All power to shields! Charge the main cannon!" The Dauntless roared to life, blue thrusters flaring as it raced through space. Human and Dominion fleets clashed all around. Streaks of fire, explosions, and shattered hulls filled the void. "Enemy fighters closing in," shouted Ensign Mara. "Take them down!" Hale commanded. Laser fire blazed across the darkness. The Dauntless cut through waves of enemy ships like a blade through glass. Every blast shook the hull, but the crew held steady. "Shields at 60%. Hale reported. Ethan clenched his fists. "Keep firing. We break through or die trying." The Dauntless reached visual range of the Oblivion Spear. It was enormous, 3 times the size of any ship in history, glowing with veins of black and red energy. Ethan stared at it. "That's their flagship." Hale swallowed. "It looks alive." Ethan gave a grim smile. "Then let's kill it." The Dauntless fired its main cannon. A brilliant blue beam shot across the stars and struck the enemy ship dead center. The explosion shook the void, but when the smoke cleared, the Oblivion Spear still stood. Veckrel laughed, watching the Dauntless from his command screen. "Impressive. But not enough," he raised his hand. "Return fire." A beam of dark energy erupted from the alien ship, slamming into the Dauntless. The ship groaned, metal screaming as parts of its armor vaporized. "Shields down to 30%. Hale yelled. "We can't take another hit like that." "Evasive maneuvers," Ethan ordered. "Lena, status on the fusion core." Dr. Lena Morris's voice came through the comm. "Core is overloading, Captain. If we keep pushing, it'll melt down." Ethan looked at the battle map. They were surrounded. There was no escape. "Then we use it," he said quietly. Hale turned to him, eyes wide. "Sir, that would destroy us." Ethan nodded slowly. "Maybe. But if we can channel it, and we might take them with us." He looked at his crew, the people who had stood by him through every battle. "You all know what's at stake. I won't order anyone to stay." No one moved. Hale straightened. "We're with you, sir. Until the end." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then let's make history." Deep inside the Dauntless, Lena worked fast, rerouting every power line to the core. The lights flickered blue and the floor began to hum. Ethan's voice came over the intercom. "All ships pull back. We're engaging the final strike." The remaining human ships began retreating, creating a wide space around the Dauntless. Veckrel noticed. "They're running," he sneered. "End them now." But as his ship prepared to fire, a strange light spread from the Dauntless, a soft blue glow that grew brighter, brighter, until the stars themselves seemed to fade. "Captain, it's overloading," Lena shouted. Ethan stood tall on the bridge. "Not yet. Aim at the core of the Oblivion Spear. The main cannon locked on. Fire." A beam of pure light shot forward, merging human technology and alien power. Chaos and willpower united. It pierced through the enemy flagship's shield, straight into its core. For a second, everything went silent. Then the Oblivion Spear exploded in a burst so massive it lit up the entire system. The shockwave tore through space, wiping out the Dominion fleet. The Dauntless vanished in the light. Hours later, the smoke cleared. Only debris remained, floating quietly in orbit. Then from the dust, a single beacon blinked. Dauntless emergency signal, active. The crew was alive. The ship, though battered and broken, had survived the impossible once again. Ethan opened his eyes to the dim light of the bridge. Hale was beside him, injured but smiling. "We did it," Hale whispered. Ethan looked at the stars, calm, peaceful, and endless. "No," he said softly. "We survived. Now we build a peace worth fighting for." The Dauntless drifted toward Earth, a silent guardian of humanity, proof that even in the darkest void, the human spirit could never be conquered.